Hello, everyone. Well, this is round two. I'm Donna Chacko. I'm here for Serenity and Health with my good friend and integral coach, Susan Riggs. Hi, Susan.
Hi.
Okay, what this is the second session of our 10-part series on engaging with the messy world. And we're really happy to have the opportunity to do this, and we're happy you're listening. And with that, I think we're going to get started. The topic today is feelings. So, everyone sit back, take a couple breaths, and we're going to start. Go for it, Susan.
All right. So, the very first thing to know is that Western cultures tend to overvalue thinking and undervalue feeling. We think that we have to be logical all the time, and we think that feelings aren't logical. And that's not actually true. There have been decades of research on human well being and relationships and leadership and teamwork. And it all points to how important it is to integrate our feelings with our thinking so that we're using both and we have a whole emotional intelligence. And that's what makes leaders good and relationships good. So that's a whole huge topic by itself, which we won't go into today, except to say that it's not possible for humans to make our best decisions without including the emotions and the body along with our thinking.
Uh,
They all matter.
they all matter. It's ironic we're doing this recording today because this past weekend, 2 days ago, my husband and I went to a marriage encounter weekend, and the whole emphasis was feelings. And Susan, it was really fabulous to understand the impact of recognizing your feelings, acknowledging them, learning what they are, identifying them, and they gave us a workbook, and the whole first page is all the feelings by name to help folks identify what they are, and there's some things I think we get mixed up about feelings, like that we think some feelings are good and some feelings are bad. But I was reminded, and you'll probably cover this too, feelings are not good and bad. They just are. They're spontaneous reactions that happen inside of us. So, like, envy is a feeling. Now, we may not like that feeling too much, but that's a feeling, just like love is a feeling. And then we get to sort out what to do with it. And then another thing they talked about in their list of misunderstandings is like the very beginning to get you started right was to separate out how we mix up a feeling and a thought. And I think this is really common. So, like, what they say is, um, a feeling is a spontaneous inner reaction to something, but a thought is a judgment, opinion, belief, idea, concept, or perception. So, like, information. But we mix it up because I might, if somebody gets me really upset, I might say, I feel he made me feel mad, or I am mad at him, or I am angry or hurt. And it's like the other person's fault. And I know that's not true. And I know you're going to be addressing that. But I think it's just so important to separate out what is a feeling and a think. If I say, I think that something or other, it's not really a feeling. It's coming from up here.
Right. I feel that he was rude. That's a
Exactly.
story. That's a
Exactly.
thought.
Yes, exactly. That's a good example. I was kind of getting tangled. Well, carry on.
Okay. So what we will talk about today is how we work with our feelings and including untangling those things that you were just talking about. So the basic idea is that we need to allow our feelings, whether we like them or not, we need to allow them to be there because they are there. And they have important information for us, but we need to look at them and work with them without allowing them to hijack us into either overreacting or underreacting to a situation. We can get really reactive, or we can get really shut down. And neither of those is a skillful response to most situations. So to help us start untangling this, I want to picture, if I had a whiteboard, there would be a diagram of a person, but we'll just use me. Here's a person with a situation that has been upsetting. So I'm feeling inside the head and the body all kinds of tangled up stuff, and it's kind of intense. And this tangle is something we might react to if we're not able to sort it out. But what we want to do is just try to tease it apart into three main components. And the first one is the feelings themselves, just those raw emotions, which are a thing in and of themselves, and they're neither good nor bad. They're just there. The second thing is what we do with them, which is unconsciously we will turn them into stories, thoughts, judgments, opinions, as you were saying, narratives like we were talking about in our last session. Our emotions lead us to make stories about them. And then the third thing is actions. We are led by our stories to take actions like saying something angry or mean, or like yelling at someone, or slamming a door, or whatever physical action we might be taking as a result of the stories that we told ourselves about the feelings. But they're really three different things. So whenever I feel tangled, the first thing is to step back and separate out the actions, the stories, and the feelings. And so the normal sequence is we feel the emotion before we even have time to think about it, and we make a story around it immediately, and we take action. But we want to interrupt that and tease it.
Yeah. There was an example at the marriage encounter. This wife always thought her husband was mad at her because the way he dealt with whatever feeling, fear or inadequacy, was to just shut down. And she made the story that he was mad, and then she was hurt and mad, and he was dealing with his own issue by withdrawing and not recognizing it. And not much fun.
Yeah, it can be very sad. And it's very liberating once we recognize what's going on and start untangling it. So to help us understand this, I'm going to give a personal example because I experience this a lot. So recently I had scheduled a massage to work on some tension in my neck. And so I went to the massage place and I checked in with the receptionist, and she looked puzzled and she said, "Your appointment's not on the schedule." And I looked at her and I said, I was standing right here at the desk 3 weeks ago when I made that appointment. I'm not imagining it. And the person who had been at the desk at that point was someone else. It wasn't the same receptionist. But I could feel some anger. Somebody had made a mistake, and it wasn't me. And I had spent my time coming there to get my massage. And there was nothing they could do for me except make a new appointment. So I could feel the tangle happening. And so I paused to take a breath, realized there's some emotion here. There's some big, I can feel my heart pounding and my hands tight, and I can feel kind of energy rising. So these are the things that I have learned with practice to identify in my body. It's just what's happening in my body. It's not good or bad. I'm not going to be able to make it go away in this moment. Just need to recognize that it's there. Now, I could make a story about it, and I saw myself doing that, but I interrupted myself. The story is the receptionist who had made the appointment was incompetent, and that may very well be true, but I don't know. It's still a story. And the business doesn't care about wasting my time. And these stories led me to a pretty strong impulse to ask for the manager. That was the action that I would have taken if I had believed the stories and gone with it. But because I was able to tease it apart, I recognized the anger, and I decided that I didn't need to take any action at that point. I let the current receptionist make me a new appointment, and I thanked her politely, and I left. And I took some deep breaths in the car, and I realized the anger was still there. And on thinking it through, I realized the business did not need me to talk to the manager. There were other ways to address the situation, and I had gotten what I needed. So the action went away. The stories I held lightly, I was able to release. I don't know what was going on. And I was left with this emotion in my body, and it wasn't going away. Sometimes it's pretty powerful and it stays there. So what we do is let it be there. Keep it company. It's almost like we're sitting down with a small child who's having a tantrum. Just keep it company calmly and let it be there and breathe. And as I did that, it shifted. It will almost always shift in fairly short order. It shifted and I felt a deep sadness, which was really interesting. And that came from someplace other than the here and now situation. And I don't know exactly what that was about, but it shifted and it released. So there was something else going on in me. And that is often the case.
Interesting. I feel like I should say for all those people who are listening and thinking, well, you should have talked to the manager. Okay, now maybe Susan could have talked to the manager, but I bet you that by leaving and going home and settling herself and thinking this through, if she then had written an email or whatever to contact the manager, it would have been drastically more effective. Just a thought, if you chose
Exactly.
to do that.
Exactly. Yeah, we are more effective when we take time to untangle the stuff first.
Mhm.
And by that time I had figured out that the receptionist who had made the appointment wasn't there anymore. She had probably been already fired.
Yeah.
It was meaningless at that point. But it was really interesting to me to see how intense the reaction was. I'm really triggered when someone messes up an appointment for me. It's out of proportion to the situation. And it's good to recognize that and not take myself quite as seriously, but just process the anger in my body.
Right. A great example.
Oh, so there's a therapist statement that goes, where there's intensity, there's history. And that's a good reminder to step back and untangle and let the stuff process and shift rather than act on it as if it were all real here and now.
Right. Right. That's a good reminder of the fact that when we feel these emotions, when we are mindful enough to be aware of them, that there's how, like you have said, they're so valuable because they're going to help us, teach us something. Like I know, for example, I'm very obsessed with my time and to a selfish degree. So if I start to feeling like this, like someone's making me wait. You mean I have to wait? I mean, then I when I feel that, then I need to, and I have learned to look at that and learn from it and say a little prayer and take a breath and realize, you're not the queen, darling. And just let it go.
Yeah, yeah, it can be a bit of a blow to the ego, but yeah, those are useful, teachable moments. Um, and as we're talking about this, I'm realizing a lot of people have the reaction of, well, I feel this feeling, which may be fear, anger, sadness. I don't like it, and I don't want to sit with it. And this is the one of the skills that I teach most often in coaching because we really don't have a choice.
Well, you
These
could have
feelings.
a choice. You could go have a drink.
Yes, you could have a drink, you could continue to suppress it. If we want to live skillfully and be deeply alive, we have to be willing to live with our feelings. And so that's a learning curve that is pretty steep for some people. And they may just have to take my word for it for the moment. It's something you can learn, and it's so, so worthwhile. It makes life so much richer and happier.
Right. There's similar teaching about pain and, you know, if you have a pain, the more you're angry about your pain and worried about your pain and thinking about your pain with all of letting the pain gets worse. But if you can somehow just breathe into the pain and feel it or think about it in a more direct way, like, I don't know, that that is therapeutic.
Yeah. Yeah. The Buddhists talk about this a lot because accepting what is rather than fighting against reality helps ease our suffering. We still have some suffering, but it is less if we're not
Right.
fighting it and thinking it shouldn't be happening.
Right. So that same teaching applies to feelings in a way,
Absolutely.
just embracing
Yeah.
it, holding it lightly.
Yeah. And the other thing about that is people who study feelings, and this is a big field in psychology right now, there are lots of books around it. They point out that if we suppress our feelings, we're suppressing all the feelings.
Ah,
So maybe you can avoid thinking about your sadness or your fear, but you're not going to be able to access joy. If we want access to the joy, we have to embrace the sadness, the fear, the anger.
right,
It's pretty poignant. And a lot of people will go through life without the joy because they are not willing.
right. Very valuable points, Susan.
Yeah. And as you were saying earlier, we make better decisions, or the actions that we take, even if it's the same action, we take it from a better place once we've processed the feelings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So this is a really, really big topic, and we've just barely scratched the surface, but there'll be some references in the show notes that point people to more books and talks. I will mention anything by Brene Brown is really good. She has done an amazing job of bringing, for sort of a popular audience, a translation of some really, really important topics. So I highly recommend that. And what else? Oh, I wanted to mention that all of the faith traditions, I had already mentioned Buddhism, all the faith traditions talk about releasing feelings. The Bible says, don't let the sun go down on your anger. You can
Right.
be angry, but then let it go.
Let it go.
Yeah.
All right. Isn't there some famous song about let it go, let it go?
From Frozen, yes.
There should
That's,
be if there's not, right?
well, no, there is, and it's very famous, but it's on a slightly different topic. Kind of let her rip and don't be inhibited. That's a little different.
Well, another reference I wanted to point out to everybody is about this marriage encounter. So, Worldwide Marriage Encounter uh, has a website and they promote this, and most faiths have a marriage encounter program. And it's really a dramatic way to help a relationship and learn many of these skills by practice and being able to identify and safely just share your feelings. Lessons for life, not just for marriage, that's for sure. If anybody's interested, their website is wwme.org, worldwide marriage encounter.org. Susan, this is just great. I feel really happy right now that we
I'm
did
glad.
this. And I want to thank you so much. And we'll be carrying on for 8 more sessions for the full 10 parts. And we'll be giving the information how you can get it on my website or by subscribing to the YouTube channel so that you won't miss it. And I hope it makes a difference. We keep you all in our prayers. And thank you so much, Susan.
Thank you.
All right. Bye, everybody.